Hi, my name is Jack Farrugia, and I am a PhD candidate at Curtin University. This presentation will focus on my project examining anti-immigration attitudes and ethno-national and civic attitudes to Australian identity over 2 decades. I would like to acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, of which the Curtin University Bentley campus resides, and all First Nations peoples of Australia and of other countries who may be listening today. I pay my respects to all elders past, present and emerging. So when people think of Australia, they may think of the outback larrikin stereotypes, native animals, potentially famous foods such as Vegemite. However, Australian identity is much more complex than this. So people tend to consider their Australian identity as either reflecting an ethno-national construction or a civic construction. The ethno-national construction reflects an inherited Australian identity, comprising attitudes that to be Australian you must be, for example, born in Australia, speak English, and have strong connection to Australian history. People who tend to endorse this are typically white, older, and less educated Australians who have high national pride. And this construction and these attitudes have historically dominated. Now, the civic construction reflects more of an achieved Australian identity, where people feel they belong to Australia by adopting society's rules and norms. This is typically endorsed by those born outside of Australia, younger and more educated Australians who have low national pride. Now, it is suggested that people may be beginning to embrace a civic identity rather than an ethno-national identity by valuing multiculturalism, inclusivity, and having more positive attitudes towards immigrants than in the past. However, if ethno-national attitudes are dominating, then it may perpetuate in-groups and out-groups, that those who fit the ethno-national construction are considered the in-group, with everyone else who does not fit this construction being considered the out-group. Now, this may continue racism, discrimination, and more specific to this research, anti-immigration attitudes, which may serve as a problem moving towards a more progressive society. So I analysed 4 hypotheses using data from the Australian Survey of Social Attitudes. In 1995, 2003, and 2013, these surveys all focused on national identity. So I hypothesized that across 2 decades, that ethno-national attitudes have decreased, civic attitudes have increased, and anti-immigration attitudes have decreased. And as we can see here, these hypotheses were supported. However, these are only minor differences, with there being small effect sizes. I also hypothesized that at each time point, ethno-national attitudes will be a stronger predictor and will be a positive predictor of anti-immigration attitudes compared to civic attitudes after controlling for social background demographics. And as we can see here, ethno-national attitudes did consistently account for much more significant variance in anti-immigration attitudes and was a positive predictor. We can also see that civic attitudes accounted for a small amount of variance and was a negative predictor. So what does this mean? So first of all, it is encouraging that ethno-national attitudes and anti-immigration attitudes have decreased, with civic attitudes increasing. However, the changes were fairly minor with these small effect sizes. Therefore, this change is not all that meaningful. Regardless, the findings do suggest that work may need to be done to continue people reframing their constructions of Australian identity to be less ethno-national, as it consistently was a strong predictor of anti-immigration attitudes across the 2 decades. Supporting the notion that if people do continue to reframe their Australian identity to reflect a civic construction, that it may foster a society with more positive attitudes towards immigrants and fostering an Australian identity that is more inclusive. Thank you very much for listening today.